Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm Greg White, Chair of the Blair County Chamber's Public Policy Committee. For the next 25 minutes, we ask that you share with our committee your thoughts on a series of questions concerning your potential role as a Blair County Commissioner. Those questions were submitted by committee members and will be asked to each of the four candidates. We recognize that the results of the commissioner's race will heavily impact a number of aspects of Blair County's growth, and it's important that the business community knows how you stand on issues related to that growth. As we indicated when we invited you, we are taping our sessions this morning and will make them available via YouTube to anyone who would like to have access to them. The video production has been sponsored by Durbin Companies, Haas's Steak and Sea House, P. Joseph Lehman, Inc., Consulting Engineers, National Property Inspections, and Stifler, McGraw and Associates. Let's begin our questions with candidate Bruce Erb. The first one, property tax reassessment has been and remains a hot button issue for area residents. While the process had not been conducted here since 1958, going forward, how often do you feel an update should take place, or what new approaches to property reassessment should be considered in order to keep the rates current and fair across all properties?
To answer the question on terms of the time period frame, it's probably somewhere around every 8 years you want to do it. A lot of that's dependent on what happens economically and if there were changes or shifts that were more dramatic in terms of real estate prices and market values, which isn't something we regularly see in Blair County. We've prepared since the reassessment, and waiting 58 years was probably the worst thing Blair County could have done. But having done that, we learned a lot of lessons from that. Since then, we have taken a lot of steps to upgrade our county assessment office. We now have 5 CPEs, certified property evaluators, people who are able to actually do a lot of the things that we had to farm out to a consultant previously. So the next reassessment we do will be done chiefly in-house with local people who have much more familiarity with the property, and I think that's in the area, and I think that's going to be beneficial. We've also done some significant upgrades on our pictometry, our GIS, and other technological things that we can do that will make things much more current, I think much more accurate, and are going to be very helpful in the future. So we've really tried to lay the ground so the next time we have to do a reassessment, it will not only, I think the accuracy will improve, the local control of it will be improved, and the cost of it will be significantly less.
Thank you. States and municipalities across the country are competing to attract new talent and investment into their respective communities. As a result, government entities are increasingly investing in both traditional roads, bridges, broadband, and place-based parks, trails, streetscape, infrastructure investments. How do you value public investment in each of these types of infrastructure projects?
I think that kind of investment is very, very important and key to us continuing to have the economic growth I think we've seen recently. We've tried to take on almost all of those areas steps in terms of the county owns approximately 70 bridges, many of which were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s that have been in deplorable shape. The board prior to the one I was on put in a $5 additional fee on a vehicle registration. That money is all devoted to work on bridges, and we're using that money now. Actually, we're leveraging that in a PennDOT program that is going to allow us essentially to double the use of that money, that we're going to have about $2 million to put into bridges and road repairs, but chiefly bridges, which is going to be very helpful infrastructure-wise. In terms of recreational things, we've been very, very supportive of work to increase recreational opportunities. The county was actually the largest contributor, other than PennDOT, in Canoe Creek to essentially the underpass that's going through that allows the Lauer Trail to continue from where its terminus was before into Canoe Creek State Park. And again, it's a safety issue, but it's also an economic development issue in terms of attracting people to the area to do things. We've certainly put money into our own park system, from Valley View Park to Fort Roberdeau with its trails and other things. The last issue that you bring that I believe you mentioned was broadband, which is a serious concern. The Southern Alleghenies Planning and Development Commission, which I currently serve as the president of, the 6 counties involved all have problems, most of them worse than ours in terms of broadband access. But we see it particularly in the fringe areas of the county, a lot of the rural areas. It's not to not have broadband access is not only detrimental in terms of economic development, because what businesses want to be there. We even see that with farms who need to, with the increasing technology there, need to be more in touch, and it takes them out. It's also a disadvantage to children educationally, because they're not able to access the things they need to learning-wise. It's bad health-wise and public health. As we see more telehealth being used again and not being able to use that. Southern Alleghenies applied for and received a $50,000 grant, which the counties are going together to match with another 50, kind of to start this process. And what we're doing is, this grant allows us to go through and identify specifically where we don't have broadband access now. The way the government does it's kind of convoluted, because they do it by census tract, and if one property in a census tract of 200 properties has broadband access, they count that as having broadband access, which really obviously is inaccurate. So we're trying to be able to pinpoint that, and again, working with the state and the federal government, and trying to come through some things, because it's going to be extremely expensive to do it, but we owe that to the people and the businesses in that area.
Economic and community development is often defined by public-private partnerships and programs. What programs, incentives, and partnerships do you see as effective in promoting new investment in our community? And what's not working? And what new ones might you recommend?
I think we in Blair County have been very fortunate that we do have good public-private partnerships, and we see that through a number of organizations, the Chamber being one of them, particularly I would think in terms of economic development in our work with both the Altoona Blair County Development Corporation, ABCD Corp., and also with the Southern Alleghenies Planning and Development Commission. We've tried to be very, very open when there is an opportunity for economic development through either an opportunity zone or another thing that comes up to do what we can in our part to alleviate any tax concerns that will attract new businesses to the area. We have numerous, when we talk about public-private partnerships, I think you would find we have numerous. I look over and I see Lisa Hand sitting here, and one of the biggest ones we have right now is we've been working very closely in the development of a expanded homeless shelter and transitional housing. Housing is obviously a huge issue. We always have people, in order to keep them out of prison and other problems, they need to have a home and a job. And so those are the sorts of things that we have been doing. We've been one of the largest contributors from our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to that shelter, and many of our county staff members have been very, very active in the work on that. So we really try to, as much as we can, to have that sort of partnership. And I think you're going to see more in the future. We need to be looking at some things that, in terms of our criminal justice system, and we talk about people not recidivating, trying to keep them out of jail. We talk about having housing and jobs, and we need to work with the private sector on that. We're doing that in the public sector through CareerLink, but again, CareerLink working with the private sector. We moved the CareerLink office over to the Altoona Area Public Library to try to make it more accessible, to try to kind of get the synergies with the county library system, which we're the chief supporter of. So I think we have gone far and really want to continue those efforts, because we're going to do things, particularly in the job line now at the low unemployment time we see. This is the time to do it now. It's kind of the golden opportunity.
There was discussion during the primary that there are pockets of corruption in Blair County government. Where specifically do you think corruption exists, And what steps would you take to root out that corruption?
Well, I would have to say, Greg, that I do not think that corruption exists. I think that was thrown out in an attempt to discredit certain individuals. A lot of that was aimed at our county solicitor, Nathan Karn, who does a fantastic job for the county, who is probably one of the most reputable attorneys in this county. In terms of corruption, I have to tell you, in my time in office, I can't tell you that I've seen anything that has been corruption. When we've seen some minor things, county employees whose behavior has been less than satisfactory or up to, we've gotten rid of them. And that's what we should do.
In previous administrations, the Board of Commissioners have been supportive of tax abatement and incremental tax forgiveness programs such as LRTA and the Keystone Opportunity Zone program. If elected, will you continue to support these types of tax incentive programs?
I have supported them in my first term, and I will continue that support, yes.
America as a whole continues and is becoming more diverse, continues to grow and is becoming more diverse every day. Family structures, lifestyle choices are changing rapidly. Blair County's demographic structure is not reflected in those national trends, while overall population continues to decrease. What is your plan to attract the next generation to our communities, and how do you see Blair County in 30 years? What's your vision for the county?
I think some of the things we've talked about earlier are the things that we need to do to attract. We're missing young families in Blair County. That's really one of our big problems, and we have not had the employment opportunities as, I'm not sure that we haven't had them. I think they exist, but we don't necessarily market them as well or match our people as well with what we need to do to retain our youth. I've worked a lot in with Southern Alleghenies, particularly, but and also with ABCD in terms of workforce development, and that's where another good example of public-private partnership, where we need to work, where we're matching and helping the schools to introduce students to the opportunities that there are for good jobs here in our industries and businesses here, because I hear all the time from a number of you that you're having trouble recruiting and finding the right kind of people that have the skills that you need. We have some great resources here from the Greater Altoona Career and Technology Center, Penn Highlands Community College, which offer a lot of essentially right from school, a technical or 2-year training into the workforce. And I think that can be particularly beneficial to us as we build that. We have to attract those families because that's what we're going to grow and what's going to make a difference for us. The other thing that we need to work on is in terms of, it's a little more difficult, but is housing stock to attract new businesses here. I've had a number of people say, oh, it would be great if we could get Amazon to come here. Well, it would be great if we could get Amazon to come here, but where would we have the 5,000 people who are going to come here and move here live? Because unfortunately, we don't have the right kind of housing that we have. And that's, again, becomes something that I know Steve McKnight at ABCD is passionate about, looking at other opportunities. And we in the Commissioner's Office have been very interested. Housing is one of my county responsibilities, liaison responsibilities, and we've been working to try to solve that issue, because that's one of the things we're going to need in order to have what we want to have in terms of reversing the population decline and bringing those demographics more into line with what the rest of the country is.
The county is a critical government service provider for area residents. What role do you see as appropriate for county government to play in the lives of area residents?
You know, people probably don't realize it, but I think county government probably plays more of a role in the life of area residents than any other level of government does. People think of county as just being the courts, which certainly covers a lot of area, but the vast array of social services that are provided, and we're talking everything from mental health to early intervention, intellectual disabilities, drug and alcohol services, all these things that children and youth, all these things that touch families and touch individuals' lives and really address real problems are essentially all delivered by county government. They may be funded to some extent or controlled by the state, but the county's who actually delivers the services on those. So the county plays a huge role in that. And a lot of things I think people don't think of. You have a fire, you pick up the phone, and who do you call? You call 911. And who runs 911 in public safety? The county. Again, that's a county function to do that. So the county is, it's a lot of things that I guess we don't think of on a daily basis, but we need them. The safety net for our citizens essentially is provided by county government.
If elected, what relationship do you plan to have with the business community, and what will form the basis of that relationship?
I think my relationship with the business community was probably formed with 40 years of being part of it. I have been a long-time banker before I retired and became a county commissioner. I've been active in the chamber. I'm a former chamber board member and the chamber treasurer. Served on the board of Altoona Blair County Development Corp for a number of years. And in all these opportunities, it gives me a chance to network regularly with those in the business community. I serve on a variety of boards and other committees that again allow me that opportunity. And one of the things that I've afforded myself being a full-time commissioner, when I retired from banking, I retired from anything that had to do with anything other than county government in terms of professionally or occupationally. And I make myself available. I attend as many events and meetings as I can, but I'm in the office every day and available and encourage people to contact me. So I have a lot of opportunities from people who come in and want to meet about various problems or issues and talk to me. I will continue that the way I have in the past.
Blair County has a large number of nonprofit organizations. Do you believe the nonprofits have equal opportunities in public policy compared to the for-profits?
I think in terms of, and I can only address this in terms of county issues, but I think they do, because county government takes huge steps to keep nonprofits involved in our processes, in our decision making. You look through our many county authorities and boards and look who the members of those are, and it's a really good mix from both the business community, agriculture, but also from the nonprofit area. And I think that's probably the secret is the mix. Look around this room, you have a nice mix of it.
And the last question, we assume that Blair County is your favorite place to be on earth. Where is your next favorite and why, and what could Blair County learn from that community and your experience?
I'd say that the two other places that my grandchildren live, which would be probably my favorite places to visit. But my older daughter and her family live in St. George, Utah, which is in the southwest corner of Utah on the Arizona border. And I think one of the things that St. George, which in 1960 had 5,000 people, and today Washington County that's in is probably around 200,000 people. It has huge, huge growth. And their park system, when you talk about quality of life, Zines National Park is located adjacent to the county, but they have public parks, trails, very much outdoor living type things, tons of playgrounds, and they have tons of young families. They do the things that attract them. They have housing types that people want in terms of planned communities and developments, a lot of things that would be very difficult to translate for us. I was in a while back in a group that was of public leaders, and we had a forum, and one of the questions people ask at the end, the last question was, if you could do anything in your county, you had all the money in the world, you can only do one thing, what would you do in your county? And I was the last to answer. These people had these great answers, and I thought, oh, rats, mine is gonna seem inconsequential to what but when I got to my chance, I said, if I could change one thing in the county, I would change our housing stock. Because I think if we changed that would change the entire face of the county. If we had essentially what, for lack of a better word, the right kind of housing, the kind of things that people could afford, that they wanted to live in, that's what would attract and make the difference here. So when you combine recreational and other activities with housing and job opportunity, you have the perfect mix.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate that.